Hi everyone, my name is Emily.
Hey, I'm Savitha, and we're youth advisors for allcove, a mental health advocacy organization dedicated to providing youth support and care for youth ages 12 to 25. Today, we're speaking with the psychiatrist at allcove, Dr. Poulsen, for our YAG project, in which we're hoping to interview and learn more about our organization's support providers. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, Dr. Poulsen. Really appreciate your help and your openness for joining us in this space today. So to kick us off, could you please tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background?
Yes, of course. So first off, thank you so much for the invitation and to be able to talk a little bit more about this project and the people that currently work in it. So a little bit about myself. I'm a child and adolescent psychiatrist. So I'm a medical doctor who went through medical school training and also experienced training not only with adult people who suffer from mental illness, but also working with children and adolescents who suffer from mental illness. So that's a little bit about myself. I am originally from Puerto Rico. I was born in New Jersey, but raised in Puerto Rico since I was 2 years old. Lived there the majority of my life, graduated high school, went to University of Florida for my undergrad, and then kind of moved around from place to place all throughout the East Coast, and then now currently on the West Coast, between New Jersey, Florida, Philadelphia, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and now California. So I've been kind of moving around all over the place.
Great, thank you so much for that introduction. So, moving on from that, we were curious about what originally led you to be interested in psychiatry as opposed to any other fields in the medical field or career.
So I actually had a significant interest in mental health, even during high school. I remember very vividly, I had a friend of mine who was having some difficulties with certain issues at home, parents, friends, and was actively looking for support. She reached out to me. We spoke over the phone, spent some time kind of talking for a long time. And after that interaction, she said something that really stuck to me, which was, thank you so much for just being there for me. And that in and of itself was really impactful. So I actively looked for something that gave me that same feeling, that same reward. And I found it in mental health in general. So when I went into high school, I got to meet a psychiatrist. He was a family friend, and we talked about what things I was interested in, and I told him about, I want to do therapy, I want to work in mental health. And he gave me some food for thought. He said, it's really a noble pursuit to try to help, fellow neighbors and people in your community, and doing it through therapy. But I want to give you some food for thought. When you're trying to help somebody, it's very helpful to have a more comprehensive understanding about what's going on. And one of the things that he focused on was not just having the knowledge of therapy, behavior, and psychological aspects that are impacting our day to day, but also having the medical aspect of things, understanding neurotransmitters, understanding the brain, understanding neurochemistry, understanding the pathology of different types of conditions and how everything interacts with each other. not only the medical and the biological, but also the psychological and the behavior. And that really made sense to me, just to have an overview and a more comprehensive understanding about what's impacting our lives, so that I am as most helpful to the people that I'm working with, that I'm serving. So that's really what led me towards psychiatry. I just felt that I was able to get a more comprehensive exposure and understanding about the different types of treatments, not only medications, not only different biological aspects of psychiatry, but also understanding the therapy piece. So I felt that psychiatry really gave me that more comprehensive look.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's really interesting to see how, like, these two fields that you wouldn't really associate together, like psychology and neuroscience, like, they're not really seen together usually, and it's really interesting to see how they're, like, together, they can be used to really help people in a really special way.
Yeah. And just to kind of give you an idea, part of my training and part of my background and part of my continuous training, I also, when I'm taking my boards to be certified as a psychiatrist, my boards also include neurology, which is one of the fields that in medicine we often share a lot of different conditions that are often comorbid, like seizure disorders, autism, and the like. So there's multiple conditions that often affect both areas and both fields. So just to kind of give you an idea that, that's something that I continuously train in, right? And that was also part of my training all throughout.
Yeah, thank you so much. So for our next question, it's going to be a little similar to this one, but what brought you to allcove? And also, we were really intrigued by your upbringing and how you were moving around. So how has that also impacted your interest in working with youth today, if at all?
So I always knew that I wanted to work with youth, even as a college student. I really enjoyed the energy. I really enjoyed the impact. What really clicked for me was if I really want to have the most impact for someone, it's really making sure that I'm intervening earlier in our age, right? And not only do I want to have the most impact, but I also enjoy that energy, that interest in life, and also knowing that whatever I'm doing now may have an impact for this person for the rest of the years to come, and hopefully it's a positive impact, right? That's my whole goal. So that's one of the reasons why I was really gravitating towards youth, and that's even before I ever learned about allcove. Throughout my training, I've been at different areas, different delivery systems of mental health, including, intensive treatments, inpatient treatment, crisis treatments. And one of the things that I've noticed is the need for preventative care. So being able to identify early, treat early, making access to quality mental health care seemed to be of utmost importance. And thankfully, I came across the opportunity to be part of allcove, which fit all of those check boxes for me. Being able to work with youth, the age range is between 12 and 25, which is an ideal place to be able to have a most impact. Also identifying early, being able to provide a healthcare treatment where it's really important to identify what is it that we're working with, what is causing the most distress for this person, and being able to address it directly, right? Being able to connect people to different programs, different clinics, and different services throughout the county earlier, so that they have the most benefit moving forward. And also making healthcare more accessible, being able to break that barrier. I also really gravitated towards allcove because of the direct interest in trying to break down the stigma behind mental health, and making it accessible, so that people aren't afraid, so people feel more comfortable accessing that care. I think that's really important. So that's one of the things that allcove really addressed in a very thoughtful way.
For sure, I totally agree. Like, at our time in allcove, I think we've both come to realize like how important it is to increase access. And I love the point that you brought up about like intervening early. I think especially like the way that you handle your own mental health, I guess, like challenges and the stigma around mental health, I think definitely stems from when you're younger. And yeah, so thank you for pointing that out. That's definitely a really great point. Moving on, our next question was, what is your definition of mental health? And since coming to allcove, has your perspective on mental health changed in any way?
It's to me, it's a pretty complex question. And the way that I can kind of define mental health is things that are affecting our overall quality of life. I often see it from a biological standpoint too, mainly because of my training. I'm a medical doctor, so it kind of fits within that context of things that affect our day-to-day functioning, things that are causing us distress, and that it's causing that distress for an extended period of time, and in multiple settings, right? Not just in one setting. And I do recognize that depression, anxiety, psychosis, ADHD, among others, right? There's a lot more others, are illnesses. And some have significant biological imbalances that need to be addressed and need to be treated to be able to bring more wellness for somebody. And some, the biological impact is not as much, thankfully. For some of us, it's more of, stressors that we're faced with, challenges that we're faced with, traumas, and then for others, it's a combination of both, and it's hard to tease out: is it more that experience that they had, or is it more of the biological part? Sometimes it's just really intermeshed, and it's hard to tease out. So for me, mental health encompasses all of that. Did it change throughout the time that I've been here in allcove? If anything, it enhanced it, and the need to make sure that our mental health is prioritized, just like our medical health, just like our physical health, because of how it often interacts with our day-to-day functioning, our day-to-day quality of life.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, yeah, I think for mental health, because at allcove we're so integrated with mental health advocacy, we don't really like sit down sometimes and like ask ourselves what our own definition of mental health is from different perspectives too. And thank you so much, because I haven't really heard anyone from like the medical field who's talked about mental health in such a like inspiring and like holistic way. So thank you. And for our next question, as psychiatry continues to develop, what do you think are some important things to consider when it comes to improving services and advocating for our mental wellness?
To me, the biggest hurdle that we face is reducing the stigma of accessing mental health. That's one particular hurdle that is at times very challenging. So that's one area that continuous work and continuous efforts need to be directly connected towards that goal of decreasing the stigma behind mental health access. The second hurdle that I think it's really important to focus on is increasing access to quality mental health care. And there have been some efforts to try to increase that access to mental health care, that quality mental health care. Allcove is definitely one very thoughtful example of how to improve that access, among others. Right now there's the crisis line that is now national, that you're able to access crisis for mental health crisis a lot quicker, and that is one additional step toward in the right direction. So there are future needs that I think it would be important to prioritize. But those two in particular, I think, really have the significant weight of what we need.
For sure. Like, even though I think a lot of like these medical services or like a psychiatric services are like getting better and better and are becoming more effective, we're also not, a lot of the time we don't see like the smaller details with how effective they are for individual like communities within our society, like for minority groups who might not have access to these services for whatever reason it may be. But I think like 1000% reducing stigma for these communities and also increasing access for everyone in general, I think is like an awesome point to bring up and for everyone to keep in mind. So our next question, kind of similar, and yeah, maybe I don't know if you can just expand on that maybe a little more, is what issues in mental health do you try to combat through your psychiatry or through your practices?
The one that I try to work on the most is the stigma. Trying to destigmatize what it is to be experiencing difficulties or experiencing a crisis or experiencing a depression, a major depression episode, as an example. Being able to connect with people at a more just fundamental way, and being able to connect to the person that's in front of me as much as I can in that moment, and really taking advantage of that moment, so that again, when we're addressing the stressors, the medical and mental health conditions that they're suffering from, being able to feel as though they're being heard. To me, the way that I often approach how I interact with somebody who's in front of me and that we're talking about their conditions, I often see myself not just as a doctor. I see myself as somebody who's providing information of what I've learned, and being able to sit down and together finding the right solution and finding the right piece of the puzzle that is either needed or missing. And kind of finding that same goal, that same unified goal, which is I'm here to improve your life. I'm here to improve your quality of life, whatever and however that life may seem or may end up being, or whatever your goals are, whatever things interest you. I want to try to enhance that and improve that, and try to, not only understand you as a person, but also being able to help you through these difficult times. So making sure that I'm really connecting, trying to, again, reduce the stigma behind mental health, and being able to provide that information so that the person is able to make the right choices that he or she feels that is needed at that time.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think a lot of people, well, at least I did until I took AV psychology and also came to allcove, that psychiatry and psychology are really similar. And also, even if they do know the difference, it's more like, oh yeah, psychology is just the study of like the brain and like only therapy, while psychiatry is more like you just administer drugs. But like through you and through allcove, I got to learn a lot more about how psychiatry isn't, you still have to connect with people in a really fundamental way, and also look at them holistically and have to learn like a lot about them, even though it's just like, it's generally seen as, oh yeah, like just administering drugs. And also just learning the importance of empathy through this too, because you still see them as a person who needs treatment. And it's really cool that you found like this way to do it for them. And okay, so
yeah, no, and what you mentioned is really important, to be able to, if I'm not able to connect with you, right, and being able to make you feel heard, you might be less likely to be able to talk to me about the things that are really bothering you, and being able to say, I really am more focused and worried about this issue versus that issue. So if anything, I would be I would be impacting my ability to be able to help you if I'm not really kind of sitting down and really connecting with you.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. So for our next question, do you have any advice for people who may be struggling with mental health from school or otherwise?
That's a really good question, and my advice would be to reach out. No matter how many times you've reached out, no matter what your previous experiences were reaching out, I would still encourage you to reach out, because at the end of the day, you matter. It's really important for you to be able to find that connection, find that support. And if we're not reaching out, it's going to be really hard. So for people who are struggling out there, if I could at least say one thing, is please still reach out.
Definitely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I think a lot of people do struggle with, like, they don't think they're being heard, which again, circling back to what you previously said about making that connection and making sure that they feel safe to, I guess, like voice their feelings or whatever struggles that they're facing. I think it all kind of stems down to if you feel comfortable reaching out, and I guess like what, even though it's difficult, if you've had some like tough experiences with, if you've tried reaching out and that didn't turn out the way that you want to, I think there's going to be like good like support providers like you and other people at allcove who will be there to support people. So thank you for sharing that. And did you have something to add, Savitha?
Yeah, I also think it's really important that people like you and allcove are here in the Bay Area, because there's just so many people and so many minorities here, and a lot of youth who don't feel like they should say something when their mental health isn't doing that great, and also want to put it on the back burner, which I have fallen victim to multiple times in the past because of school. But like, it's just really important for us to know that we're being heard and that the stigma is being broken down, so that we'd be more comfortable coming to organizations in order to be able to get the mental health help that we need. Yeah.
No, I agree. And being able to connect, and again, we're all, unique. We all have our differences, but at the same time, we share a lot as well. We're all human beings. We all, came from different upbringings, but we still all have upbringings that we can share. And being able to, again, connect in that desire and that interest of having a quality life. So yeah. So I think it's important to be able to continue to connect.
Yeah, for sure. Like, bottom line, I think the connection and the empathy or like compassion that you can hold for other people is what allows you to really bond with them, regardless of what goal you and other people may hold. So our second to last question for you is, in your free time, what are some activities that improve or that you have found have helped your mental health?
The things that really continue to have an impact for me personally are things that make me, that give me joy. Connecting with family is something really important for me personally. Keeping myself physically active as much as I can. Taking care of myself when it comes to, giving my body the nutrition that it needs to work at its best. Making sure that I'm sleeping good and sleeping okay. Right? Getting the rest that my body needs. And also taking some time and noticing the things that I am grateful for. And there's a lot of things that if I dedicate some time to it, I can start creating a very significantly robust list of things that I'm grateful for. So those are some of the things that I've found that are really helpful in maintaining my mental wellness, and improving my mental wellness. And just like people that I work with, sometimes I do experience difficulties. We all do. But making sure that I'm reaching out as well, and I reach out to family, I reach out to friends, and I found that to be very helpful. So those are some of the things that I do.
Yeah, I think it's like really important that sometimes we're really invested in like our future or what we're currently working on, and like going like, what's the next thing? But we forget to slow down sometimes and just be like, okay, so what do I have? Like, what am I grateful for? And who, like, and just falling back on like friends and family and just maintaining the supportive environment that we have. So thank you. And for our final question, is what is a TV show or other media like YouTube channels or podcasts that you think accurately portrays mental health or psychiatry?
That's a really tough question. I haven't really found a program or a movie or a TV show or YouTube or any other example that portrays mental health. To me, mental health is such a wide and such a vast experience for different people that I wouldn't be able to say of one particular either show or episode or that would portray mental health or how psychiatry is performed or I wouldn't. Unfortunately, I don't have a good example to show, but it's mainly because of how vastly different and variety and of what mental health really encapsulates. So I don't have an example.
Yeah, that totally also makes sense. Oh, sorry. I must cut you off for that. Did you want to say something?
Right. I think that answer is like in itself, like, so technically everything accurately portrays mental health then, right?
And if anything, it's I see it as kind of taking a picture. If you take a picture of yourself, does it portray you? It portrays one aspect of you. It portrays you when you're happy, or when you're sad, or when you're angry. But it doesn't really portray all of you. So that's how I kind of see it.
Yeah, that was such an insightful way to put it. Yeah, definitely. I think you don't get the full picture, and you definitely would not be able to see or get an idea of the full spectrum of the human experience of mental health, which is, I think that also brings up the point that there's a lot that we don't understand, and there's a lot of experiences that go unheard or that we need to continue to pay more attention to. So yeah, thank you for that that very inspirational message. I believe that's all of the questions we had for today. I'm not sure if you wanted to have if you had any follow-up questions, Savitha?
I didn't, but if you wanted to leave us any last comments or any positive inspirational quotes we could use.
Actually, no, there is a quote that I wanted to say. Thank you so much for bringing that up. There is a quote that I often like to add, and I always add it in my emails. And that quote, if I'm able to find it really quickly. Yeah. So the quote is, "It's okay to be scared. Being scared sometimes means you are about to do something really, really brave." So, and that kind of goes to the last question where, again, kind of a picture or an image or a show kind of gives you a frame of how to look at something. And sometimes that's not the only way of looking at a picture or a frame. So you can kind of see it from different angles. And I really like that quote.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's definitely very cute. I mean, not cute, but yeah, like a very excellent way to like look at things. And I'll definitely remind myself of that whenever I'm like feeling a little unsure about any decisions that I have to make. Yeah, thank you so much for talking with us today. This was very helpful, and yeah, we're very grateful for you and like joining us today.
Well, thank you, Emily. Thank you, Savitha.